Hi all, welcome to Off the Post. Apologies for none of this last week. Got caught up in quite a few things, namely the football with Hibs last week. But joyed of how it all progresses and we go from there. So plenty to kind of delve into since last week really. Obviously might as well start with how from a European perspective, obviously the likes of Braga, Young Boys, Galatasaray, they had their first legs last week and they have since played their second legs this week with Galatasaray, Braga and Young Boys all going through in their respective ties, so fair play to them against Panathinaikos, Maccabi Haifa and Molde respectively. Galatasaray Molde game was actually a cracking game to watch if you were a neutral. Trevana and Dnipro finished 1-1 with Dnipro finishing with 9 men. Hibs got completely annihilated 5-0, which doesn't tell the full story. Yes, Villa were very clinical in their chances. Hibs basically just were the creators of their own downfall. That is pretty much it in a nutshell. Hibs had a couple half chances and it was just, that was about it really. But Hibs just really just gave Villa free rein to do what they wanted, and it was kind of just, it proved painful to watch really. It was a case of if Hibs could go say 20 minutes, half an hour without conceding would be fine, and the thing was the goal was easily preventable, and same for like the second goal was especially preventable, but like it just shows crossing is Hibs' Achilles heel, but is what it is, and you just take it from there. Obviously from there, like the Thursday games in Europe for like the Europa League, the Conference League, some hammerings across the board that pretty much put first legs done and dusted, where it be Dinamo Zagreb 3-1, Ajax 4-1, Olympiacos 3-1, Nordjylland 5-0, Ferencvaros 4-0, Fenerbahce hammering Twente 5-1. I would not expect. I thought that was probably, when you look at all the ties in the group, like for the playoff round, that was quite possibly one of the standout ties, knowing that one half decent team was going out of Europe basically early. Maccabi Tel Aviv winning 4-1, Eintracht Frankfurt not performing at all against Levski Sofia 1-1 in their game. From there, Legia and Michelin was 3-3. That was an entertaining game to watch. Osasuna in their first European venture for a while, losing 2-1 to Bruges, Club Bruges in Spain. Alkmaar not firing against Brann, which was an interesting turn of events. The shock of the round, if I'm actually honest, is Bati Borisov getting beat 4-1 to Balakani, pretty much putting that tie to bed. PAOK sneaking against Hearts. Hearts, if I'm honest, gave them too much respect. Hearts, I think, could have easily won the tie, but started off well and that was as good as it got. Aberdeen, I feel, will have too much for hacking in Aberdeen. So hopefully Aberdeen just see themselves through, and Hearts have got a chance in Greece. They've just got to be up for it from the get-go. Really prioritise that game all ends out really, and then you've suddenly got 4 teams in Europe. It makes the coefficient have a lot stronger chance really. But yeah, and like in terms of like the ties in general, there's always going to be a few smaller teams that sneak in to like a European competition anyway, because to a lot of people they won't really know of Klaskvik, they won't know of Kukariki. Like Klaskvik got a 1-1 against Sheriff. Now Klaskvik were unlucky against Molde. They should have really in the end got through the tie. I think it was a bit of an experience and tired legs showed. And like the playoff, yes, if they'd got Galatasaray, yes, it could have been a hammering over 2 legs, but then they'd be guaranteed Europa League football. They might still make it happen, but knowing that they've guaranteed Conference League nonetheless is fair play. And it goes back to the argument said for the likes of Hibs, Aberdeen, Hearts, St Mirren, Motherwell, whoever that's qualifying for Europe. If a team like Klaskvik, for example, can qualify, or even Breda Black, you say to yourself, how can these teams not qualify? Yes, the draw plays a part. In our case, it's Aston Villa, who are basically the favourites to win the Conference League, but it is something to factor in at the end of the day. Obviously, from there, Chelsea got themselves to winning ways in the league, getting a comfortable victory over Luton 3-0. Luton trying their hardest to get a competitive team. But when you look at the rest of the leagues around the world in terms of how teams are going, like Shanghai Port just now in China, they're kind of eking their way slowly to the title. Their last 3 games have just kind of brought everyone else back into the title race, like Shandong Taishan, Shanghai Shenhu and Beijing Guan. Shanghai Shenhu have they've had a little wobble as well the last couple of games, but knowing that your points was nearly 15 points and now you're down to 9 is, if I was a fan, I would be a little bit worried, but I'd be hoping that form can turn around sooner than later, if you're trying to wrap up the league, as it were. The one interesting point of the weekend as well is in leagues like the Netherlands, for example, what you found with teams, not just in some of the teams in even Croatia have been getting rest. If the European teams have had the week off, obviously not this week in Croatia's case, but it was a couple of weeks ago they had it, and it's great. It's just great to give teams a chance to say, we're trying to prioritise Europe, let's give them a chance, and it makes it happen. If teams are able to qualify for Europe, and it helps the coefficient, and you see it, so that's what Scotland should be looking at as well. Let teams like Hibs, Aberdeen, Hearts, Rangers rest their players to give them a chance in Europe, really. In terms of results throughout Europe as the weeks went, there's 3 games in the National League on Friday, but obviously that was because Monday it was bank holiday. Nantes Monaco was 3-3 in a very entertaining game if you were a neutral. Monaco kind of hitting their first bump in the road, as it were, because obviously Monaco are trying to make the title race a bit more interesting this season, and at the moment Marseille have also started off with 7 from 9, but Reims, Brest, Strasbourg all starting with 6. They've all lost a game. Rennes, Lorient and PSG currently sitting 8th with 5 points. But Leipzig got the early goal, and that was as good as it got. They got the goal in the first half. Second half pretty much just became the Leipzig show as they run riot 5-1. I love how Werner just doesn't get much game time now. Just it's a bit sad, really, how things have progressed for him. Back in the day when he was at Leipzig, he was pretty much one of the star men, scoring goals for fun. Pretty much teams across Europe were wanting him, namely like Chelsea, Liverpool, Bayern. Goes to Chelsea, doesn't really fire, comes back to Leipzig, not really firing, and you say to yourself, what is going on with him? It's a shame to see, really. Kaiserslautern and hosting Kiel getting results in the Friday night games. Schalke's not really doing it at the moment. Hamburg leading the way. If I was honest, if you'd said to me that Hamburg would be top after 4 games, I'd probably laugh at you a little bit, because I know what to expect out of Hamburg when it's the second division. and Schalke being fourth from bottom, Hertha Berlin only just above them on goal difference. It just kind of shows when, like, I like the second division of the Bundesliga, knowing that there's a lot of competitive teams that have Bundesliga experience over the years in there, but also shows even the bigger teams in a country struggle. And like Braunschweig have been in the top division in recent years. Schalke, Hertha Berlin obviously just recently relegated. Paderborn have been in the last decade. Grew Firth fairly recently. Hanover were regulars in the top flight. Same for Kaiserslautern. St. Pauli have been a few years out of the top division. Nuremberg the same. Fortuna Dusseldorf. Hansa Rostock's been a long time, I think, since they've been in. Obviously Hamburg, I think they're like the 6th or 7th season nearly now. But like Hamburg, I missed the clock. That was what they prided on. But part of me thinks Hamburg this season it's going to click. I thought maybe on the first season it was going to click, same with the second season, but surely this year everything happens. Time will tell, of course, when it comes to them. Sampdoria's life to Serie B is not going as they hoped. Like 1 win, 1 loss, but obviously they started with -2, so it's not ideal. But like Serie B is another one. Like when you look at the division, that there's teams that naturally you'd be like, who are these? Like, whether it be to some people's eyes, it's like Lecce, Feral Pisalo. To some might even be Ternana. Some people don't necessarily know who Ternana are. Catanzaro, Sud Tirol, Cosenza. But obviously you've got the experienced names like your Parma, Medina, Venezia, Palermo, Bari. Like, it's funny how when you see how some of these teams like Spezia and that, how some of them like they were in the top flight, like Cremonese. Like, you've got like, and what I like about Serie B is knowing that even though it's a 19 team division this season, only 7 teams have to have nothing to play for, which is between 9th and 15th. Basically top 2 go up automatically, 3rd and 4th have the playoff semi-finals, but 5th to 8th have the like quarter-finals of playoffs. And if I'm honest, it's hard enough to predict. It's weird not seeing even Benevento in the second division this season, when a couple of years ago they were pretty much on the cusp of going up and then fell short quite suddenly. But Portugal, Poland, Japan. Japan had one game, which was a Friday morning game. Urawa Reds winning 1-0. Slask Warcraw getting a comfortable victory to go 2-0. A lot of these teams are like between 4 and 6 games in the league. Legia obviously have a game in hand on Jagiellonia, but they have 2 on Zagleby. But what's handy is as well knowing that if they were to get their 2 games in hand done, they've suddenly got a cushion. And what's semi-encouraging about the division as well for all 18 teams, there's only 8 points at the moment separates first to bottom, so no one's safe yet at the moment. As we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this is like the first division, first time in like 40 years that the Portuguese league has like every team on the mainland. Shock lead at the moment is Vitória Guimarães, 3 from 3. Braga have only played 2 games, but they have lost 1. One of those being Famalicão, which was a 2-1 defeat. But it'll be interesting to see how Braga do this season with Champions League competition on top. Like Guimarães, I don't see them holding that standing. Like, I would expect them to be close to, say, like European football, but I find it strange how it's only a top four in Portugal get like European football. I really don't quite understand that, because it's like champions get the group stage, second gets Champions League qualification, third obviously is Europa League, and fourth is Conference League. I feel say two of the teams at least deserve a bit more of a chance to play for Europe, where it be like your Gil Vicentes, Famila. Like, I know you can throw the cup into the equation as well, and like Gil Vicente, what was it, last year, a couple of years ago, they had like a flirtation with Europe, but didn't last long. Aruka, I think this season hasn't really gone to plan, and that's the thing. It'd be neat to see some of these teams that don't often get a chance in Europe actually get a chance. But it is what it is. Rapid Bucharest, probably the highest, I think nearly the highest scoring game of the weekend, 5-3, and that was with a missed penalty as well. Could have had a 9-goal thriller, so fair play that that kind of came about, really. But at the same time, you think an 8-goal thriller in like these leagues, it's quite neat to see, really. But at the same time, I'm sure Craiova would have liked to have conceded less than 5 at home, while Rapid Bucharest would have liked to have conceded less than 3. Saudi League, is it proving as enticing to watch? Al Nassr won 5-0 against Al Fatah, and it goes back to the argument that you see with some of these teams. Like Ronaldo got a hat-trick, he played his part in 4 of the goals. Mane played a part in a couple. Like these teams, they're just so, like Al Nassr's, like literally in terms of a team, like as a starting 11 team, isn't it's good, but it still lacks. Like defensively, like you've got Yakanan, not Yakanan, that's the forward, sorry. You've got Kanan, Laporte making up half a decent defence. Garib helps out attacking wise. Like they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, like half a dozen non-Saudi players in the starting 11. Like in Al Fatah, like it's funny how in Al Fatah's case they have like Denayer, which you could have said he could easily find his spot in like Al Nassr. Zelarayan's another, for example, even Tello. But it just shows like some of these teams have not just necessarily like bigger players, but it's like the budgets and what's allowed and what teams are able to kind of get given to them, really. Like Al Shabab, for example, like Diallo went from Strasbourg to Al Shabab, but the thing is, Al Shabab haven't really got a team that's like, say, kind of kicked on or improved, because they've still got quite a lot of Saudi players, while they could still have a bit of improvement within the team. Like Benega, Quelar, Diallo are like established names. Iago Santos has established himself there, but it's like if teams wanted to find that bit of improvement to bring a bit more like balance, so it's not like a one-sided league. Oh, it's like we've got the best players or whatever. It's like Tatasarnu, for example, going to ABBA, which is fair play, like, cause they've suddenly now got a half decent goalie who has got extensive experience in Europe. But it's important to note with like ABBA, for example, they've got Kacharlik, they've got Kamano, they've got Matic's brother within their team. But then you look at like Al Tawun, they've got like Tawamba and Madran and Mateus as like, say, 3 of the, and and Girota to kind of make up part of their non like Saudi cohort that's okay but not like special. And that's what just you constantly see when you go through like every team in the league. Like Alfea's like Fashion Sakala, Onyakiru, Fabian Ruiz, Victor Ruiz, sorry, Fabian Ruiz is PSG's one, Simarot, Stojkovic, but like when you look at like Al Hazim, they've only got a few of the like Bruno Viana, Vina, Traore, Toza. They've not got the same depth that is on offer to like other teams, and it goes back to the argument of having a bit of balance within. Levante still getting like despite their off the pitch troubles, they've got a 1-0 victory over Cartagena. Real Madrid over Celta Vigo 1-0 in the end. From their Saturday's games, Sturm Graz comfortable victory over Linz 4-1, Altak 3-0, Salzburg in an end-10 game with Wolfsberger 2-1. Eupen comfortable. Kortrijk, despite their early start of the season worries, got themselves a point on the board, so fair play to Kortrijk. First point in 5 games. Standard Liège I would never have said would be in the bottom 4. Westerlo sitting in the bottom 4 as well. And the thing is, when you look at like the Belgian league, if I'm brutally honest as a neutral, I would generally say it's a very even league. Like Eupen sitting 4th, who last season were basically a bottom 4 team, but the likes of knowing that like Leuven, Westerlo, who have good depth in their team, Standard Liège as well, but are in the bottom 4. Like St Truden, Charleroi, Mechelen, Cels Bruges could all find themselves in the bottom half as well, but Ghent, Genk, Antwerp, Club Brugge, Anderlecht, USG can all find themselves challenging for the title, or at least you would assume so anyways. But it comes down to like consistency of form in the division, and if as I would say, and I've said it quite a few times, when you look at another league, I feel Scotland should mirror the Belgian league, and then that's when you'd suddenly see an 18 team league. You'd see Dundee United, you'd see Partick, you'd see so many other teams suddenly in the top flight. It would be competitive, it would be fun, and like yes, Rangers and Celtic might still win the league by say 20 points or 10 points, but the rest of the division has a chance, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Talking of Brazil next, America look like they could be going down. Santos as well, which is kind of unheard of. Vasco da Gama and Coritiba, but at the moment Botafogo comfortable in the league title race, like Palmeiras, Grimero. Like what's quite good is between Atletico and Palmeiras there is like 10 points, but for like the Copa Libertadores there is basically like 8 points separating 4th and 10th. Like Fortaleza have suddenly found a bit of form the last few games to suddenly give them a chance, but the Brazilian League's another one what I like in terms of, yes, it's a 20 team league, but only 4 teams in the division have nothing to play for, which is great. So it's like 13th to 16th is literally safety, 7th to 12th gets you Sudamericana, 5th and 6th in Brazil gets you the qualifications for try to qualify for the CONMEBOL Libertadores, and then same for the top 4. It's just great. Gives everyone really something to play for at the end of the day. Makes all the difference. It's the same when you go looking, like Copenhagen got hammered to Silkeborg 3-1. like Copenhagen's trying to prioritise Europe, I can tell just now, and like Silkeborg, like the thing is with the Danish league just now is it is quite competitive. There is like say 7-8 teams that on their day can produce form. Vela's bottom of the league, and I don't see where they're going to find form anytime soon. But it just makes for fun viewing, really. Like as we were mentioning with Brazil, like Ecuador's another league where they sadly don't have the same luxury as I think with how the teams make the like Sudamericana and Libertadores, but like it's a competitive league anyway with like Emelec, Libertad, Independiente del Valle, Barcelona, Catolica, Quito. It's just how you go about it really, in terms of approach. In the Prem, obviously, Arsenal first hurdle came unstuck against Fulham. Not very impressive at all. I genuinely thought Arsenal would win pretty comfortably. They got the lead and then just threw it away in the last 5 minutes. If you're wanting to win the league, these are games I'm afraid you can't really draw against. And what I find funny as well, that's 2 London teams they've had, and they get Man United next week at the weekend. So yeah, that'll be a laugh. Like, who would have said West Ham would be second after 3 games? But it'll be interesting to see if Sean Dyche stays at Everton. Do they sack him? Like 3 losses on the spin. Nothing to really show in any of the games. The Aston Villa game was embarrassing. Everton, Wolves, they just not firing. Jose Sa kept Wolves in it. Got big 3 points. If you were to look at the bottom, say 5 at the moment, I probably would have said that would be my bottom 5 at the moment. It just kind of shows where Everton are just now as a team. Like Luton and Burnley, obviously. Burnley, we don't know what to expect with them this season. Like they've had the hardest two of the hardest games they could have had for their opening 2 games. And then they get Tottenham at the weekend. It just kind of shows how relentless it is, and also it just shows if the owners have faith in company, despite knowing that first 3 games, it's the 3 hardest games you could have had. This is what to expect. It's like with Luton, they had like probably 3 hard games. They've got 3 hard games as well: West Ham, Brighton, and Chelsea. So it just shows what like these teams expect. Like Sheffield United showed promise in each of their games. Unlucky against Palace, unlucky against Nottingham Forest, and then just really unlucky against Man City. It just shows that it can happen. But looking at it at the moment, I would say the bottom 8 is pretty much like signed, sealed and delivered already. It's what the rest of the other 12 teams in division do. And by bottom 8, I'm thinking Everton, Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, Wolves and Nottingham Forest. So you're basically from that's 7. Bottom 8 would be one of Crystal Palace or Fulham. So that gives you like your bottom 8 like off the bat. Like Newcastle's not going to be there come end of the season. I think they'll be top half anyway. You've got to remember that they've had like Liverpool was a volatile game, and they looked very impressive against Aston Villa. But a long way to go in terms of the league anyway. Championship, same old. Ipswich came unstuck at last, but it's another division that's like, who knows what to expect. If a team can get a bit of form in the Championship, you're laughing. Like Leicester, like I would say going 4 from 4 is impressive. Norwich, like Birmingham as well, they're showing good form. Like for me personally, as a neutral, I'd like to see like if the season was to end now, I would like one of Preston or Ipswich to actually go in the Premiership. Personally, I'd really like it. Like I can't remember the last time Preston were in the top flight, and Ipswich is what was it, like 15-20 years, so it'd be just nice for them as well. But like for me personally, I would not be surprised if Leicester, Norwich, Southampton, Preston, Ipswich come the end of the season are all still up there. I would not be surprised in the slightest. So we'll see how that progresses. League One, Scott Brown could be getting his books. Could be the second manager to be sacked, because obviously Charlton sacked their manager, Dean Holden. But Stevenage and Pompey came unstuck in more ways than one, finishing 0-0, finishing with 10 men, and quite a volatile game to say the least. Both, and the funny thing is Pompey are still one of the only unbeaten team still in the division, but Oxford leading the way in there. But at the moment, I find it funny how Charlton sacked their manager within the first 5 games, despite them getting a win. But like Fleetwood have played 5 and not got a result, so it's swings and roundabouts, of course, in the way of football. Wigan obviously sitting 2. They started off the season -8, so it shows how well they've managed to get 10 points out of the first 5 games to kind of get themselves from a negative to a positive right away, and how they kick on from here as the rest of the season goes. League 2, Bradford, Mansfield, they'll be the teams I still expect to be up there come end of the season. The question with Bradford is, will they finally get into League 1? That is the big question. Do they finally get into League 1? Same for Mansfield, do they get into League 1? Because they're like, Mansfield seems like a very well run club. They just fall short. I'd like AFC Wimbledon to get back in. Be interesting if Notts County Accrington get back in. I personally don't see MK Dons and Gillingham sustaining it. Newport will be interesting as well if they can sustain it. But it's another competitive division. Wrexham, 14 goals scored, 14 conceded. That is kind of, from 5 games, is absolutely fun. That must be great if you're a neutral to watch. It's funny how it was 1-1 just against Barrow, so it's quite flat at the weekend. Like National League, I'd like Hartlepool bounce back up for Jeff Stelling's sake, and they're a team that personally I don't feel should really be in that division. I feel they're good enough to be out there. Like Southend, obviously starting on a minus, but -10, they're at -1 at the moment. I feel Southend will stay up. It'll just be interesting to see how they progress as the season goes. Oldham I didn't expect to be bottom half as well, but this is another league. Some teams one season do well, the next season do not. It's like how Barnet are in second at the moment, but fair play to them. Ligue 1, obviously PSG got a comfortable result against Lens, Marseille against Brest. And Bundesliga, Dortmund just not firing whatsoever, 1-1. Leverkusen looking very, very impressive, getting a comfortable 3-0 victory against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Could the Leverkusen challenge for the title? But at the moment, with 5 teams going 2 from 2, it will certainly be an interesting turn of events. As we said, we briefly mentioned about second Bundesliga. Herford 5-0, Hamburg 1-0. Just to quickly touch back on them, Dusseldorf 5-0. AEK Athens was like 20 minutes of stoppage time in that game. I don't know why. I've not actually double checked why. Panathinaikos 3-0 in their victory prior to their European adventures. Verona still remaining shock team in the division, 2 from 2. AC Milan comfortable against Torino 4-1. Frosinone upsetting the odds against Atalanta to go 2-1. Like Atalanta, I would have thought, not just for say Europe, but like be up there again this season. They're not as firing. Sassuolo bottom of the Liga, I would never have said. Same for Lazio. Who would have said Lazio? 2 from 2 to lose against Lecce and Genoa. It's like feels like unheard of for Lazio. Sassuolo obviously had Atalanta and Napoli, so I can kind of see justification. But yeah, it's an interesting start to the season. Japan, like some funny scores there. Consadole Sapporo were 2-0 up against Kawasaki Frontale, but lost 2 goals in that game and finished 2-2. Cerezo 3-1 against Nagoya, as Nagoya hit the bumpers there. In the Yokohama derby, the Marinos got hammered 4-1 at Yokohama, as that kind of upset the title race a little bit further. Avispa had another chance to catch up on teams, but losing 2-0 away to Kyoto. And then Gamba, as we mentioned earlier, with their game, Higashiguchi given an error in their game, which was a bit of a shame, but sometimes the way it goes. NEC winning 3-0 against Wallach, RKC, and Excelsior 2-2 against Sittard in a very well balanced game. Sarpsborg 4-0 on Tromsø. Norwegian League's not got too long to go, but still a few months away. But Bodo Glimt and Viking lead the way. Tromsø hitting the bumpers here in terms of keeping up with them. Rosenborg still sitting 8th, which is kind of startling to see. But Lillestrøm 6th, Molde 4th. Other talking points. Strømsgodset sitting 10th, obviously. I've got a slight interest now because of Elias Melkersen on loan to them from Hibs. We briefly touched on Portugal with like Benfica getting a result, and Ferenc winning comfortably 5-0. Russian League 4-0 Zenit in their respective game. Scottish Premiership, we'll give a little bit of love to that. Rangers 2-0, Celtic couldn't find the back of the net against St Johnstone. Hibs got beat to Livingston, in which Livingston were better in every department. Hibs were just absolutely woeful. Crosses again led to Johnson being sacked, which was no surprise. Bottom of the league. At the moment, Hibs are looking at Lennon as the front runner, but McInnes, Robinson, Malky Mackay, Martindale, Michael O'Neill, Graham Arnold. There's a lot of interest. A lot of the usual names that get mentioned. It's just a case of who actually gets the job is the biggest talking point to be said with that. Over in Spain, Sevilla's not firing whatsoever again this season in La Liga. Sitting bottom of the table, 3 from 3, which is funny to kind of actually bear witness. They did this last season and then found a run of form that suddenly they were like one of the best teams in Europe, and it led to the Europa League win. Mallorca defensively need to ask questions because and also up front actually, because they missed a penalty against Las Palmas when they could have got a win there. Against Villarreal they weren't clinical and slipped up with a goal against them, and then Granada, same applies against, they're missing another penalty, which, and then just poor defensive duties, which is costing them. And if I'm honest, it's what's letting them down really at the moment, where they could have been challenging higher up the table, but they're at the wrong end of the table. Battle of the potential promoted teams this season, Tenerife and Zaragoza. Tenerife losing 1-0. Angel Rodriguez was only on the park for 6 minutes before getting sent off. The goal itself that Zaragoza scored from a corner, Jair got Soriano made a fumble with the shot, not clearing it out, and then Jair was able to get the rebound in, which was a bit of a poor goal, if honest, but is what it is. But Tenerife certainly trying their hardest to, and Zaragoza to hopefully challenge up the top end of the table this season. Servette get hammered 4-1 to Yerevan. Gives Rangers even more amusement, really, knowing that Yerevan hammer Servette, especially since Rangers eked over the line in that tie. And Basel obviously sitting second bottom in there at the moment, which is kind of startling to see, kind of unheard of, really, when you think about it. Turkey, Fenerbahce, as we've mentioned throughout, lead the way in all shapes and forms. Impressive in Europe, impressive domestically, impressive domestic business made so far, and it'll be interesting to see how they kick on as the season progresses. From obviously, like, what I find at the moment with like a lot of the leagues is just how like competitive like a lot of the leagues are, but the biggest talking points really is ill discipline in some games. Like Wehen and Nuremberg finished with 9 men and 10 men respectively, but it's like so many leagues just now are like heavy on the red cards, and you think to yourself, like, what is going on? And like also like VAR, but as we mentioned with Netherlands and Croatia, but also Turkey as well, is teams that are in Europe getting like the recovery to say, right, oh, you're in Europe, you get the week off, prioritise Europe. And like Scotland's like the one league that doesn't do it. It would be like, imagine say Celtic Rangers and Aberdeen were in the Champions League, the Europa League and the Conference League, and whether it be the semis, quarters, finals, whatever, they still wouldn't get the love to actually get time off. You're playing the cup game on Saturday, you've got European game on the Wednesday, you've got a cup game on the league game on the Saturday, you're playing them. No, we can't fit any breaks in, even though when you quite clearly look at the fixtures, you could play a midweek fixture for a league game or a cup game, but they don't realise it, they don't think that. It's kind of brutal, really, in terms of the approach, but it is what it is, really. Maybe Scotland, that's when Scotland has to look at expanding the league, really. What I liked on Monday was non-league getting the love for fixtures. Obviously Eastleigh and Aldershot was on the telly, but it allowed people that are in any of those areas to be like, oh, Monday, bank holiday, let's go and watch a game of football, whether it be Oxford or Rochdale, Oldham, Kidderminster, Bromley. You see, so it's great, it just gives you something to enjoy on a Monday afternoon. Salernitana, now draw. Calgary, under Ranieri, I think will excite people, but obviously against Inter was always going to be a step too far. Inter was just very clinical. Steaua Bucharest losing 2-1 to Arad. 9 men did not help their case either. Al Hilal and Al Ittihad, when you look at their respective teams as well, when we've mentioned the Saudi League as well, knowing that they've got like Malcolm and Mitrovic, Ruben Neves, Koulibaly, like Bono going from Seville to there is funny. Like, really? You go from Seville to there. It's like, really? Do you really want to go there? And then obviously Etifak has Quaison, Henderson, Ozdemir, Vitinho, Jack Hendry, and like Paulo Victor as well. So it's like some of these teams literally go to town on signings, but some of the smaller teams, it's like Jota, for example, came on for Benzema. Like Jota, they were talking of getting rid of, yet he's still there. Like, so how's he got? Like, why is he playing at the end of the day? And it's funny how he was on the bench, but I think it's also because of the rules that the. But saying that, it wouldn't be actually, that would be a lie, because there was only, I think I saw something that was going to be like 6 Saudi players when there's only 4 starting. That's a cracker. But Al Ittihad personally should actually run the league when they've got Benzema, Coronado, Hamdallah, Romarinho, Fabinho, Kante, and Groh. So it's like Marcelo Groh. So they've suddenly got they've got depth in every area. The only area that they're actually weak in is defensively, which is a all Saudi back line. Like in Al Veda, yes, they may have El Yamik, but they've only got Anselmo, Fajar, and that's about it. They've not really got much out with and Agallo. Sorry, you forget Agallo's there now. So it's swings and roundabouts really for these kind of teams. Atletico Madrid, the hammering of the weekend, 7-0. If you watch the games, Vallecano were tragic. They were absolutely abysmal. I've never seen a team, I think, play so bad in my life. Defensively, I think it was kind of what everyone put across. Like Evo was the only player with like a pass mark, I think, that anyone gave. But yeah, it's like Atletico's going to be an interesting team this season, because for what I've seen, Carrasco's like a wing back, Witzel's a centre back now, but they're still going to bring in like Soyuncu, Aspilicueta. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how they actually shape up. Javi Galan really deep down, but it's, as I say, that's football for you at the end of the day, and it's kind of good to watch as a neutral. And obviously, as we mentioned briefly at the start, like with the European ties, Galatasaray, Braga and Young Boys progressing, and then by the time when this gets sorted, tonight's games, AEK Athens Antwerp, Copenhagen Rakov and PSV Rangers. For me personally, I think AEK Athens maybe get through in extra time. Copenhagen, I think, just do enough. And if I'm honest, Rangers do enough against PSV. PSV don't. PSV 2 goals were kind of Rangers' defensive frailties. I feel Rangers, attacking wise, have good depth and options, and I feel Rangers might just sneak away with a victory. Will it be extra time or penalties? I don't know, but I feel Rangers just do enough on the night to get through. Obviously for like, I don't expect like really any upsets, as it were. Like Qarabag should see through their tie. Slavia Prague probably. Klasvik's probably the interesting one. Like I know when I go and watch them as a neutral, like I'll, because of the times of the games, I'll probably watch one of the 5 o'clocks, get the first half in one of them, get one of the halves one of the 6 o'clock games maybe, just to change it up. Probably have Hearts game in maybe the background just to see how they do. Aberdeen, same applies in the background. Obviously just Hibs will be my main focus, just to see how good or how bad we actually are in the second leg. But there's going to be a few big teams going out in Europe, or a few half decent teams, and there's obviously going to be a few decent teams dropping down from Europa League to Conference League. Like LSK should see their tie through as well. But it'll be interesting to see when these ties all get done, who what group, who's in who's what group, basically, as it were. But as I said, I'd like Aberdeen to get through their tie. I feel they're more than capable of doing it, and it would be interesting. As I said, groups I always find interesting, and it makes for good viewing as well, just to see who gets who, and it always makes the argument of, can we see a smaller team go on a run in Champions League or the Conference League or the Europa League? Like for me personally, I think at the moment, for what I've seen, Fenerbahce, Aston Villa, they're the team to beat in the Europa League, Europa Conference League. I don't see past them, personally. Besiktas probably could be up there as well, depending on groups. But see how it goes, and we take it from there. But let me know, folks, what your thoughts are for like the weekend ahead with like your team, whether it be Marseille in the Friday night game, Dortmund on the Saturday game, Friday game against Heidenheim. Heidenheim will be interesting to see how they cope. But obviously the Saturday games, like Brighton Newcastle, I would say is the exciting game of the weekend, if I'm honest. When I kind of look over all the games, two teams with not just European ambitions for this season, but like they've like in terms of like Europa League and Champions League respectively, but would like to maintain a push for Europe this season. Napoli Lazio is going to be interesting to see if Lazio can turn it around, or will Napoli keep their defence going strong, of course. And then obviously when you're looking like Spain, how the Barca, Real Madrid hold up this weekend, and just see from there really. But have a good one, folks. Let me know how your teams are doing this weekend and all that good stuff, and if there's anything else to see, I'll maybe keep an eye on it. And obviously deadline day as well, who gets like the wrap up for transfers, because we'll give that a bit more love next week, because at the moment, like, we generally do not know. For a lot of teams, especially the teams that are in Europe, it's qualifying for Europe can wrap up these final transfers for teams. They can't make it happen if they these deals are not, like, if they're not over the line really. If it's like saying, oh, the paperwork's ready with player A, it's like we can get John Smith on a 2-year contract if we qualify, but we have to get his brother Joe on a 1-year contract if we don't qualify. And it's a lot of things like that, or Pablo Ruiz or whatever. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, of course. But let me know, folks, how your teams are doing and all that kind of good stuff. So have a good one, folks, and I will catch you all later.